All right, some breaking news coming in at this point. The top Facebook India executive, Ankhi Das, has quit Facebook. In a statement, she has written out that, in a message to her colleagues, in fact, Das recounted the earlier days of Facebook and the internet ecosystem in the country when she had joined the company back in 2011. She, however, denies the allegations and did not say that her departure is related in any way to the recent stories in the press that have come out on the public policy directive that Facebook India follows. Remember, there is an ongoing joint parliamentary committee interrogation that is going on, and Facebook had to depose in front of them as well. I just want to quote now the message that has gone from Ankhi Das to her colleagues. She says, "We were a small unlisted startup back then, guided only by our mission and purpose to connect people in India. After 9 long years, I feel that mission has largely been met. There is an enormous amount that I have learned from incredibly smart and talented people in the company, particularly from people on the policy team. This is a special company and a special group of people. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg," she says, "for creating something beautiful for the world. I hope I have served you and the company well. I know we will be in touch on Facebook." Srinivasan Jain joins us for more. Vasu, what could this be linked to?
Well, obviously, Sonal, it's fairly clear that this would be linked to the recent controversy that erupted after that Wall Street Journal story, which accused Facebook officials, particularly Ankhi Das, of bias towards the ruling party. The allegation, just to recall to our viewers, in the story was that she had suppressed an attempt to take action against a BJP MLA, a BJP lawmaker, who had made hateful posts on his BJP page, on his Facebook page. And that's something which apparently Ankhi Das had pushed back against, even though within Facebook there was an attempt to take down those posts. Subsequent stories actually looked back at a history of incidents where Ankhi Das appeared to have sided or shown a certain bias or a tilt towards the BJP, and that, as we know, had blown up and become into a big political controversy. So I think it's very much in the backdrop of the fact that since then there has been an intense amount of scrutiny and questions over whether Facebook was truly a neutral platform or whether officials within Facebook were in fact acting out of political bias. And the heat has been on Facebook since then, and it's very much quite likely, though of course the statement, the official statement, is unlikely to ever get into all of that, but it's quite likely that the leaving of Ankhi Das, the quitting of Ankhi Das, is very much within that context.
Well, in fact, you talk about that statement. We have an excerpt of that now. It is a statement by Ajit Mohan, the head of Facebook India. He says, "Ankhi was one of our earliest employees in India and played an instrumental role in the growth of the company and its services over the last 9 years. She has been a part of my leadership team over the last 2 years, a role in which she has made enormous contributions. We are grateful for her service and wish her the very best for the future." So exactly what you were saying, they have not even touched upon the issue.
Sonal, it's highly unlikely they would acknowledge the context or perhaps the genuine reasons why Ankhi Das had to leave and put out a boilerplate statement. Both sides, both Ankhi Das and Facebook, putting out boilerplate statements saying that, she did a good job and she's moved on to other challenges. But as I said, we do know the context. And remember, Sonal, this has been Facebook's stand right from the beginning. Even though, there was all this controversy, they continued to make the point that Ankhi Das was, in fact, acting very much along the lines of Facebook's own policy. In fact, even at that time, Ajit Mohan, the Facebook head, had said that the platform remains neutral and non-partisan, and that it's impossible for Facebook India's decisions to be influenced by individuals, saying that the process that's followed is designed to ensure that no one person can influence outcomes, basically indicating that it couldn't be just Ankhi Das alone who is responsible for taking quote-unquote biased decisions. So in that sense, Facebook coming out and saying whatever they did doesn't really surprise me at this point. But again, as I said, it's impossible to delink it from this context, because just remember, Sonal, just a few days ago, in fact, just last week, at the Parliamentary panel, there was a hearing of Facebook, was grilled extensively. Ankhi Das was very much there. This was not directly related to the Wall Street Journal story, but it had to do with platforms like Facebook being used for misinformation. So I think for Facebook to continue its operations in India with somebody as surrounded by controversy as Ankhi Das would have been fairly difficult, and I think very much within that context that she and Facebook have decided to part ways.
And Vasu, do you think Facebook will be able to wash off its hands of this controversy, saying it was just the individual?
Well, I think it would depend very much, Sonal, on how Facebook and, in fact, other social media platforms move forward on this. Whether they're able to actually show that they're a platform that's truly neutral and not tilting towards any one side. As we do know, there's been an extensive amount of reportage on how, in fact, quite outside of the entire Ankhi Das controversy, Facebook's platform has been misused by political actors. There are a number of pages that spread disinformation which are not policed. There are fact checkers that Facebook employs who have not called out these pages or have called out the multiple handles that put out disinformation, politically biased disinformation on Facebook's page. So I think Facebook, as with all social media platforms, will have to do much more to demonstrate that they are not acting, in a sense, in consonance with party A or B. But certainly this will at least perhaps temporarily take the heat off them.